All right, so we're live. Well, not live, but recording. We're on our video now. Hello, everybody. For that introduction, I'm Coach Andy, and with me is Coach Joe. And today we're going to talk about how to get someone to do what we want or to listen to what we want. So, Joe, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello, I'm Coach Joe, here to answer your questions, support you, maybe at some point be your coach. I'm here to help you as men to get over your masculine issues and just become who you truly are as an individual and be okay with it.
Mhm. Perfect. I love that. Hello, everybody. I'm Coach Andy, and I also help guys. I focus exclusively on guys, whereas Joe sometimes takes boys and girls, men and women. I focus exclusively on guys, and I tend to focus on guys who are looking for some sort of control. They feel like they have no say or no control in their life, and I help guys find that. So today, the topic is another question, just like our last video. This is one's also a question that a client brought up in a conversation, and he said, "How do I get someone to do what I want?" And I added a version of that question: How do I get someone to listen to what I want? So the original question is, how do you get somebody to do what you want? Well, first of all, they need to have the option to not do what you want. That's the basic answer. But there's a much deeper version of that answer. So how would you answer that? If I come up to you and said, "How do I get somebody to do what I want?" How would you answer that?
Um, well, I think the first question there would be, what is it that you want? Right? That'd be my first question in regards to that question. And then how do you get somebody to do what you want? You're going to have to look at that individual, and is that within their means? Um,
All right.
you know,
So let's just say
um,
for a moment that what I want is I want my kid to clean his room, or I'd like my girlfriend to make supper. Not every night,
mhm,
but tonight. Or
sure.
I'd like my coworker to do this task I've given them.
Mhm.
In those kinds of scenarios, what
So,
would
I
you
mean, I
approach that?
think all of these, in all these scenarios, I think you'd want to approach it with some sort of reward system in place, right? Or some sort of trade off. Hey, if you'll cook dinner tonight, I'll do the dishes. If, you clean your room, hey, I'll take you out for some ice cream. Something that adds value to it. So it's just not well, he's being lazy. He just doesn't want to do it
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Right.
But where it is more of a team effort and one person doesn't feel singled out like they have to do it. Like you're
Right.
going to like if they feel that you're going to be upset from the get-go, then there's going to be resistance, I would assume, and then there's going to probably be a reaction to that resistance, and then who knows where it goes from there.
Hmm.
So teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Hmm. Yes, I like that. Yeah, and some sort of reward system works. I like the alternative version of that, a trade-off. Um,
Mhm.
if it's a child or a somebody who works under you, the reward system works great. If it's an equal or a superior, like somebody you're working for, or if it's your spouse or a partner or something like that, or a coworker, a trade-off is a better terminology, although it might end up to be the same thing. The reason I use the word trade-off is because if you're asking them something, they should have the opportunity to ask something from you. So whereas with a reward, you might say, if you clean your room, I'll take you for ice cream. They might not be asking for ice cream, but that's the reward you're willing to offer. Whereas with a coworker, you'll say, if you do this task, I'll do that task. Well, what happens if they don't want that task? If they're actually your equal, then they should also have an access to ask for their own task in return, or their own trade-off in return. That's why I like the word trade-off in that scenario, because we should treat our people the people in our life with respect. And how we do that is we give them the same level of authority we expect to have. So if
Hmm.
we intend to say, would you please make dinner tonight? Then I'll do the dishes. What happens if the person I'm asking to do the dinner doesn't actually enjoys doing the dishes, or doing the dishes accounts for loading the dishwasher? They might not think of that as an equal trade-off. They might say, okay, well, I'll make dinner tonight, and I want you to put the kids to bed. Right? Well, that might be
Hmm.
a different trade-off. So the reason I use the word trade-off is because it gives them the chance to ask for what they want in return. And
Correct.
if you do an ask and they do an ask, then there's a negotiation process that's available. One of
Right.
you might say, well, I'm not willing to do the thing you asked, but I can do this other thing that's like that. And then there's negotiation. Then it's, like a haggling. Maybe that's not good enough, but I will do this thing. Or maybe that's not what I'm willing to give, but I'm willing to give this thing. And that's where, when you're talking about equals, the trade-off is a better terminology. It's a better way to look at it, because now they also have the option to have a say in the outcome. Whereas when it's
Right.
a reward system, they don't have a say. The only say they have is yes or no. And if you only give them a yes or no option, you're less likely to get them to do what you want.
Yeah, but I think there's the other side of that too, where they could go, well, like if you're getting resistance from a child, right, or a teenager, well, I don't want ice cream. I'd rather have this, and then you discuss that. Go,
Hmm.
okay, well, let's discuss that and let's see if that's a possibility.
Hmm.
And then, one of the questions that, or two questions I've been asking when I'm in a heated discussion with my wife, and I want to get into it, right? Is one, what is the outcome that you're looking for here? And two, how can I support that outcome?
Hmm.
And when you do that, you take blame off of everybody and you're talking about the end. And
Yes.
so instead of fighting for 2, 3, 6 hours or all day long, you get a much quicker response. And if your wife goes, well, I don't know. And you go, well, I love you. How can I help you?
Hmm.
I don't know. And they start to think. The wheels start
Right.
turning, and all of a sudden, everything kind of dissipates.
Right. And sometimes what happens
You
there
know,
too. Sometimes what happens there too is they don't know, and maybe they need some time to figure that out. Right. They might need some time to go
Mhm.
away for a bit, or go do something else, and decide what is it that I want as a trade-off. He's made his request. I've made my request of her, and I've made that known. And I've made it known that I'm willing to do some sort of a trade-off in something that she figures is okay. So then she gets to consider two options: A, whether she wants to do the thing I've asked, and B, whether there's something she wants in return. Right. So she gets to consider both of those things. And that's, I agree, it can easily defuse the situation if you say, okay, this is the thing I'd like, and I'd like to give you something to support you. So, what is the result you're looking for? What is the end result you'd like to see out of this? And how can I support you
Mhm.
in achieving that? Right. Maybe it's me do
Right.
the dishes for you. Maybe that is what you want. And maybe it's not. Maybe you want me to date the kids
Mhm.
so that you can have some time with the ladies after, or some time with your whatever it is your hobbies are. Right. um, and
Right.
and that's what respect looks like. That's what love looks like. That's what equality looks like. Equality doesn't mean you do the dishes tonight, I do the dishes tomorrow. You make supper tonight, I make supper tomorrow. That's not necessarily equality, because if one person likes making food and the other person doesn't, then that's not equality. Right? If one
Right.
person likes doing the dishes or doesn't mind doing the dishes and the other person absolutely hates doing the dishes, then that's not equality. Right? So the equality is where we give each other the choice. We both have choice. I ask and she gets to ask, or he gets to ask. Right?
Mhm.
I like that. I like that. So how do you get someone to do what you want? Well, you give them the option not to, and you give them the option to ask for something in return.
Right.
I
Because
like that.
you don't know, we have different trials and things throughout the day,
Hmm.
and you don't know what they're feeling all the time.
Right.
So you be sensitive to that. And as men, I think we struggle with that, and we say, okay, I want this, and I want this done now. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to get mad, and then I'm going to throw a tantrum until I get my way.
Right.
And that's not okay. That's got to stop. That is toxic male behavior, in my opinion,
Mhm.
because
I'm gonna interrupt here. I'm gonna put in there. I don't necessarily think it's toxic male behavior. I think it's toxic masculine behavior because women do it too,
right,
but it's women who are living
yeah,
in their masculine energy who do that,
I
right? So
agree,
it's a
100% agree.
toxic masculine behavior to do that, to get angry and demand and get demanding and not really listen to what the other people are asking for. That's a
Yeah,
toxic masculine behavior, and many of us do it. I know I've been
absolutely.
known to do it. My wife was known to do it. She admitted to doing it. Lots of people do that, and it isn't. So I don't want it to be a
Mhm.
toxic man thing, but it is a toxic masculine thing,
Right.
right? So
I only say that because
I
the
just
men's
wanted to
coaching
clarify.
corner.
Yeah, right, and that's what
And
I'm getting
also,
at. That's what I'm getting at because sometimes we might be dealing with men whose wives have done that to them,
sure,
whose
absolutely,
wives have been demanding. So I
absolutely.
don't want to put that label on men and say only men can be that.
Oh no, 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 I wouldn't want to do that either. So yeah,
Right. Yeah,
good
I agree.
catch.
Well, and it is true. It is true. That is how a lot of men act.
Oh
The
yeah.
majority of my clients, that's how they exert the control they're looking for, is
Hmm.
by being demanding because they have felt marginalized or completely ignored for some portion of their life or perhaps their whole life, and they exert control by being demanding, sometimes controlling, and sometimes even violent. And
Yeah.
so that's what I do is I help them to find ways to compromise, find ways to ask and let them ask. Because if you're
Right.
going to ask for something, then the person you're asking better also have a chance to ask as well,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so the point that I was getting to is that it's okay to not be that way.
Hmm.
Right. It's okay to not be that way. I've caught myself even recently getting upset. Things aren't going the way I want them in the house, right?
Hmm.
And what do? I get a ball in my head about it, and then I get upset about it, and then it'll go on for 2 or 3 days. Who am I really upset with at that point?
Hmm.
Am I really upset at everyone outside around me, or am I just really upset at me that I'm upset about this so much in the first place?
Hmm.
Right. So you got to kind of not, you have to be able to get out of your head, not get stuck there and
Right.
go, is this really that important? Is
Well,
it
and
really worth all the,
if we were to all die in a car accident tomorrow, would I care if the dishes are done? If
yeah,
we were to
exactly.
all die in
And
a car accident tomorrow, would I care who made supper last night? Right.
right,
I say that because I live
exactly.
next door to a neighbor whose entire family died in a car accident. They were a great neighbor of ours, and
Mhm.
then we just saw their house was empty for 2 or 3 weeks, and we saw a family coming in and emptying their house 2 or 3 weeks later, and we're like, what happened? And they all died in a car crash. The whole family, the husband, the wife, the kids, everybody. So
That's,
at that
that's,
point, who cares who made supper the last night? Right?
yeah,
Who cares who
yeah,
who made the dishes? Who did the dishes? Who cares about all these things that we care so deeply about
right.
when that
Because
happens?
they're all that important. I
Right.
mean, you should be more grateful. I think we should all be more grateful that we got to sit down with our family,
Yes,
right?
because many
Let's
of us
be
don't.
grateful that we have those dirty dishes. Let's be grateful that we have that pile of laundry. Let's
Yes.
be grateful that the car isn't clean. Because
Yes.
what does that mean, right? What
Right.
does
It
that mean?
means we have
Living,
those things.
you have those things exactly, and I think we get too focused on what the outside world is thinking
Hmm.
and without how they're judging us, and then we start judging ourselves and we start judging everything around us,
Yeah.
and then boom, explosion. And for what?
For what?
For what?
Yeah. For what?
Let it breathe and let it go.
Well, and that's exactly it. And We do get caught up in wanting everything a specific way, a certain way. We get caught up in wanting a specific result, or a very specific particular image. We do have this thought of what we want to present to the world, and sometimes it's not even presenting to the world. There's a couple of people that I know that aren't worried about what the outside world thinks, but they think that.
Hmm.
I know a gentleman who's really concerned about the way his wife treats the kids, and he wants her to treat them in a very specific way. And in the end, as long as they grow up reasonably happy, who cares how they got there, right?
Right.
Who cares if they got there through his plan or through her plan?
And
And
see, yeah,
maybe
right.
and maybe a combination of the two plans is what you need. We don't know. You don't know.
Yeah. I think, it's very common in parenting to, okay, I want it my way. No, I want it my way. Right. And they go, well, no, we want it our way. And we forget to focus on, well, what is the child's way?
Mhm.
Right. We miss
Exactly.
that most important piece because if we want them to go to college, maybe they're not that kind of kid. If we want them to do this or that or whatever, they may not be that kind of kid. And as a parent, we have to recognize that, support that, and be able to direct them in the direction that they want to go and support them in the way they need to be supported. But more often than not, we're putting our wants and our needs onto that individual. And we can do that same thing with our significant other.
Yes.
And so it's a very fine line that we really need to focus on correcting, I think, as far as masculine behavior, as far as whatever kind of relationship
Yeah.
it's in.
Yeah.
Just realize what's really important and what is not society's opinion of importance or
Right.
whoever has embedded this in you.
Right. And it could be, I like that because it could be society's opinion. So it could be the world we live in, whether it's the neighborhood or the city or the culture that we live in, or it could be
Mm.
the church values that our church has given us, or that our faith has given us, or it could be the family values that our grandparents and parents taught us, or it could be some company culture that we have learned working for this company for umpteen years or whatever it is. It doesn't matter where the values came from,
Right.
where it doesn't matter how right we think those values are. What matters is how considerate of another person's values are we if those values are different than ours. How willing are we to compromise to make sure that two people get their values inputted, or maybe three, four, five people, depending on how, like you said, with the two parents and the child, you might have to consult the two parents and come up with a value, and then both of you consult the child and say, okay, well, this is the child's value, this is what they want, right? And then try and compromise all three of you, and that can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. But I think, we need to get to those difficult conversations because at the end of those difficult conversations, we'll lay the highest reward,
Yes.
right? That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go to those places because, well, they're scary or we're just
Or
uncomfortable or whatever our reason is. Or, well, my mom and dad didn't do that with me. Well, sorry, tough shit.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's
Just
what I
your
do.
mom and dad didn't do that with you, and did you turn out to be the perfect person that you thought you wanted to be? Nobody
Right.
has. And
Yeah.
because nobody has, the way we were raised isn't perfect. It's probably good. It gave me, I'm happy with who I am. I might be happy with who I am. Lots of people aren't. But even if you
Mhm.
are happy with who you are, that doesn't mean that your parents made no mistakes. That doesn't mean that everything that happened in your life since you were born was great. It just means that you learned to manage it.
Mhm.
And if you can make it so that your kids don't have to manage some of those things, wouldn't you want to?
Yeah.
Right? If you could make it so that the things you didn't have or weren't taught when you were growing up, if your kids could be taught those things by you or your spouse or someone else, wouldn't you want them to learn those things?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to guarantee that they will, because the child is also has a say in the matter. They also get to decide what they want and where they're going. And we often, like you said before, we often forget that as parents. We often
Yeah.
forget that the child has a say. Well, they got to go to school and they got to go to college and they got to do this and they got to play sports and they got to, you know, master this and be great at chess and be great at, whatever, all the things. They just got to do all the things so that we have more opportunities when they grow up. And if you've pressured them so much as a child to have all the opportunities, and the thing they don't have when they grow up is happiness, is that worth it? Are you willing to give them a miserable childhood so that they have opportunities when they grow up?
Yeah, and I think the important question there, and we use this in coaching, the
Yes.
entrepreneurial world, and wherever else, and that is know your why, right?
Yes.
Why do I want this for my child?
Yes.
Well, what's my child's why?
Right.
Because if those two things don't match, then there's going to be resistance on both ends. And that's
Yes.
probably going to create a very interesting spark that you may not want to explore.
Right.
You know?
Well, and if it does create that, you can explore it, but why create it if you don't have to?
Right.
You
Now,
know,
that doesn't
if you've already created it, then explore that and heal it as much as you can.
absolutely 100% agree.
And if you
So,
haven't, then why create more?
right. And with all this said, I'm not saying don't direct your child, don't,
Right.
show them that this is the way to go, this is the path, but be okay if that path changes in a direction that you're uncomfortable with or you don't understand.
Right.
Yeah,
I
my
I
parents.
completely agree. I completely agree. One of the reasons we chose to homeschool our children, my wife and I, is to give them some choice in the direction they go with their life.
Mhm,
My two children had different skills, different talents, different specialties, different things they were really really good at,
right.
and school tends to focus on the things you're not good at.
Hmm.
So my children weren't learning to be proud of the things they were good at. They were learning that they were piles of shit for the things that they weren't good at, because there's always something you're not good at. And school wants to teach you such a broad spectrum of skills that there's always something you're not going to be good at. And a lot of kids are growing up not feeling like they're good at anything because the things they are good at, nobody notices.
Right.
Right. And so to your point, we help them focus on, if we can help them focus on the things that they do want to do. When a 10-year-old boy wants to be a YouTuber, encourage that. Every 10-year-old boy, or nearly every 10-year-old boy for the past 5 or 10 years, has wanted to be a YouTuber. Nearly every one of them. Hell,
Hmm.
half the adults want to be YouTubers. That's what we're doing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
encourage that. That doesn't mean that that's what he's going to want to be when he's 15, and he might. And if you encourage it enough, by the time he gets 15, he might actually have some following and understand some value of running a channel, or running or managing an audience, or or interacting with people in a positive way. He might learn some social lessons, some business lessons, some
Mhm.
technology lessons. There might be some things there that school wouldn't teach him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yes.
And the thing, like if we had started this, I don't know, 5 years ago, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
and then COVID hit, well, we've already built a business. We
Yes.
have income. We don't have to worry about going outside and putting on a mask and all these things that came out during COVID,
Right.
right? This happens again 10, 15 years down the road.
Yep.
So
We'll be
we
ready.
start thinking about these kinds of things, and that's a whole other conversation I could go down a whole rabbit hole about. But
We could do a whole rabbit hole. But we started out with how do we get people to do what we want, and I
right,
think it's what it's evolved into, is how do we get people to listen to us? How do we get our
keep,
children to listen to us?
keep them at choice.
Keep
I
them at
think that's
choice.
exactly what it is. Keep them at choice, because if anyone feels like they don't have a choice, what happens? If you don't feel like you're at choice? What happens? You're resistant,
We
or
get
you're
demanding.
sad, or you're depressed, or you're angry.
Hmm.
Nothing good comes out of it.
Right. And that's exactly where most of my clients come from, is they don't feel like they're at choice.
Mhm,
So the first thing that I try and help them do is, first of all, show them how they are at choice, and help them bring the other people in their life to choice, so
mhm.
that they surround themselves with a life of choice.
Right.
so that
And it's,
everybody in their lives is that choice.
yeah, and it's really as simple as asking yourself the opposite question of what you're already asking.
Yep.
Why isn't she doing what I ask?
Why
What is the
isn't she? Why isn't he? Why aren't they? Yeah.
yeah. Well, but what's the opposite side of that, right? How do I get them to do this in a way that makes it okay and keeps them a choice? How do I make this feel like it's not something I'm demanding or, you know,
So how do I
doing?
get what I want without being demanding? I guess that's what we're asking. So how do I get what I want without being demanding? That's what we've been saying this whole video. Give
Right.
them a choice.
Give a choice.
Let them live in choice. That's exactly it. And when you let somebody else live in choice, that means they get to ask. They get to make requests. They get to make their own demands. And maybe they don't know how to let you live in choice because they haven't had this lesson. So they say, you need to do this. Well, okay, I need to do that, but then I'd like you to do this in response.
Hmm.
Right? And that's how we teach that we can live in choice. That's how we share with our spouse that we can live in choice. We don't need to teach our spouse that, but we do need to teach our children that. And we can
You know,
share with our spouse without demanding.
and there's another component to this, or maybe more than one, and that is your body language or physiology
Hmm.
and your tonality.
Yep.
I don't know how many times, sometimes I've had just a sore throat and I've asked my wife to do something. Well, why are you coming at me with that tone? I'm sorry, my throat hurts. What do you want me to do? But if that tone is off for any reason and your spouse or significant other says something to you, then you
Hmm.
might get instantly upset about it. You're going to maybe react to it instead of respond to it.
Right.
And that's, you want to respond, not react. Watch your body language.
What's the difference?
Okay, so what's the difference between reacting and responding?
Yes.
So, hey, hon, can you do the dishes? I don't like your tone. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I've got a sore throat. I didn't mean to use that tone. Would you please help me do the dishes? I'm not feeling well.
Hmm.
That's the
Right.
response.
Hmm. Whereas reacting is more out of an emotional condition.
It's, yeah, more of that first thing that comes to mind to defend yourself when there's
Yeah.
no need.
Defense. I like
Right.
that. It
Yeah.
often is based on defense. Why are you coming out with me with that tone? We might feel attacked by that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So we might defend. I was coming at you with that tone because I got a fucking sore throat. Stop bitching at me. Well, now that's not gonna that's not gonna make a positive environment. You're not likely to get help with the dishes anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, and I'm going to relate this, and this might sound kind of funny, but I'm going to relate this to dog training because
Yep.
I'm a certified dog trainer, right? And I'll go in and I'll train somebody's dog, and that dog will be hyper when I go in the room.
Yep.
100% certain. Now, within 15 minutes, I've got that dog sitting down, looking at me
Hmm.
quietly.
Yep.
People look at me in amazement and go, "What's the difference?"
Energy.
Energy. Remain calm. It's not always easy, but if you just put a song in your head or whatever it is, and you can remain calm, anchor that calmness, and just keep it,
Yeah.
huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge. Life
And
changing.
and to your dog analogy, that's the same thing with dogs that are barking all the time or scared all the time or running away all the time or chasing people all the time. It's the same thing. If you can have a calm, cool energy, a very centering, grounding kind of an energy, you can portray that to your dog and they'll feel that
Mhm.
energy and calm down themselves. Not every time, but that's the intention of it.
And I
If you
can
can
tell
do
you
that
this,
consistently, you'll train the dog way faster.
yeah. And something else that is true in the dog training world and the human behavior world is the number one thing that a dog wants. Do you know what it is?
Love.
That's the emotion, but there's something else that everyone
Okay.
overlooks:
Okay. What?
trust. They
Yes.
want to know that they can trust you
Yep.
with everything.
Yep.
And if that dog does not trust that you can lead it, that dog is going to try and lead you.
Yes.
But if that dog
People are the
trusts
same.
you, and people do the same.
People are the same. People will follow you if they trust you.
Right.
People will do what they ask if they trust that you're not going to ask anything that they don't want to do.
Right.
People will even do the things that they don't want to do if you ask, if they trust that it's in their best interest.
Yeah.
But trusting that you have my best interests is a very deep level of trust that isn't given very freely.
Right. And the other point I was going to make was that you can love somebody and not necessarily trust somebody
Yep.
that you love.
Yep.
So that's where the difference comes in. But if you can combine the two, then you've got some magic.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And I agree with that, because the love somebody that you don't trust is where the unconditional love comes from. I don't have to
Mhm.
trust them. I don't have to believe that they have my best interest at heart. Hell, they might have declared that they intend to hurt me or those I love. But I
Mhm.
can love them without giving them access to be able to hurt me or those I love.
Right.
Right? I don't have to trust them. So so yes, to your point, you can love somebody and not trust them. So in
Mhm.
order to get how to get people to listen to you, they need to trust you.
Yeah. They need
Right?
to trust that you're not going to, throw a pot at them. You're not
Yeah.
going to yell at them. You're not going to
That
curse them,
that
but
you're
you're going
that you're not that they're not you're not going to yell at them, but also that when you ask them of things, it's for their benefit as well as yours, not just for your benefit.
to correct.
When you ask things, it's not purely selfish. They need
Yeah.
to trust that. And if they think when you ask things is purely selfish, they're much less likely to honor those requests.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
that's where the equality comes in. It's got
Yep.
to work both ways. Now, you might have to start it. It might take a few months,
Yep.
and so,
Yeah.
but
In
it's got
order to gain equality, sometimes you have to be unequal in their favor.
right, or vice versa. I mean, it just
Yep.
depends where it goes.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. That was exactly what I told this particular person was give them choice, treat them like an equal, make them trust you. Show them that they can trust you, not make them trust you, but show them that they can trust you, and then understand that half the decision is theirs. They don't have
Right.
to listen. They don't have to honor your request. They don't have to do what you ask. They don't
No.
have to trust you. They are an individual the same as you are. They get a choice, and if you don't want to give them a choice, that's a different conversation.
And once in a while, this is a pro tip. Once in a while, go above and beyond the expectation. Exceed
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Exceed it.
And
Don't
once
just
in a while, because if you exceed it all the time, it becomes an expectation, and all you've done is raise the bar of the expectations.
right.
So exceed it sometimes and stay down where you wanted to be most of the time. Do as requested most of the time, and sometimes go above and beyond.
Yep.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. That is a pro tip. Very much like that. I love where this conversation went. Is there anything else we think you think we need to add to this?
Let's see.
How do I get someone to listen to what I want, and how do I get someone to do what I want?
I think that's pretty complete. Nothing
Yeah,
else for me.
yeah. In asking those questions again, I'm like, yeah, I think all the answers that I want to have to those questions, I think we've already talked about in this video. Perfect. So you know what to do, people. If you like what you're listening to, then obviously subscribe to the channel. If you like this particular video, this content, then like the video. Let us know if there's anything that you'd like to hear about for us to talk about, or if you have any questions, or if you want support. We're here for all of you, and we're here to help. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you later.